Okay, hi everybody. My name is Richard.lesperance. I go by the name of my man Richard. Welcome to A Better Lifestyle. Today I have Loic with me. I forgot to ask you how to pronounce your last name, so I don't want to mess it up. So how do you pronounce your last name?
Potjes.
Okay. Welcome to the podcast. Today, Loic is doing some great work in as a coach in regards to coaching CEOs. So we're going to be talking about that, his experience and all that. So talk to us about your own experience as a CEO and in regards to scaling businesses.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the podcast, Richard, and yeah, glad to be here. So, yeah, my experience as a CEO. So, my first job was actually in emerging markets for 2 years as a finance manager, where I had to do a restructuring and a turnaround. So, I was thrown at the deep end after university to restructure an international NGO in Zambia, Africa, for 2 years. That was my bit to go and save the world as one would at that tender age. Then I came back to Europe. I'm originally from Brussels in Belgium, and I started working for multinationals. And very quickly, I got into 80/20. And what I mean by that is getting into a new space, a division, a recently acquired company, a scale up, and essentially being thrown in, having to decipher and understand the root cause of the problem, the opportunity, putting teams and solutions together and do the heavy lifting, like the 80%, the stuff that moves the needle in the right direction. So I would do that like almost naturally, not by design, but by default. And also by default, when it came to the fine tuning, I was slightly less interested, and I wanted to move to the next big hairy ugly thing to get my teeth stuck in. So I did that for a few years. Did an MBA, got married, and then at 31, when my wife Caroline had put the last curtain in our home in Brussels, I came back home with one-way tickets to South Africa. Um, as a young expat CEO. That was my first CEO experience then, to go and start the subsidiary of a Swedish multinational in Johannesburg, South Africa. So arrived here with my laptop and called the global CEO, and I said, "Hey, what's the plan?" And he said, "What do you mean, what's the plan? Just build a business." And so I went about that. I acquired a first small company with 200 employees, which I then scaled rapidly, doubling up in size every year. So talking about scaling up to 4,000 employees in 6 years with a proper local corporate setup, a few subsidiaries, and so on. So that was a great learning. And after, in terms of change management and rapid scaling and getting the finger on the pulse of the stuff that really moves and forgetting the details, because you don't have time for that when you scale rapidly. Then the market turned. The market turned because the market price became below the basic wage price. We had to reinvent the business. So then we started playing with tech and AI. At the time, it was very new, and like 10 years ago, and it was the start of behavioral pattern recognition. Then it was about transitioning a very operational business into something more agile, more scalable, more tech-friendly, and that was an absolute mission. I found out that the tech wasn't the problem. All the tech was there. The problem was our slow mindset as a company and structures and processes and so on. And so it was taking far too long. It was too slow. I found again a small company with 50 employees and four entrepreneurs who were completely spot on. They had the right go-to-market, the USP, the methodology, the logistics, the supply. Everything was like a Swiss clock. And where we were trying to reinvent the wheel. And so I bought them, and in buying them, I bought actually 2 years of school fees that I didn't have to have. It accelerated the journey. I took these four entrepreneurs on my exco saying, hey, normally the large corporation swallows the small company. I said, no, 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 we're going to do the other way around. The small entrepreneurial guys are going to swallow up and change the big corporation, which we did. It didn't go without quite a bit of difficulty and resistance and all of that, but we drove through and we quadrupled the EBIT of the group in 4 years through their input. Then I got my first midlife crisis and I thought, hey, this is becoming a little bit too corporate. So I resigned and I started a boutique advisory firm for exponential scaling. Not too much theory, just from the hard lessons learned, what to do, what not to do to help other businesses scale and so on and so forth. I did that for a few years. Then I invested into a SaaS, software as a service tech company, which I ran as a CEO for 3 years for a VC firm. I exited last year, a year ago, essentially, yeah, slightly more. And I had my second midlife crisis where I realized, hey, I met a guy, a friend in Paris for coffee, and he said, no, I'm doing CEO coaching. I said, what's that about? And he explained, and cut long story short, that's what I do now, which is helping entrepreneurs think on the business, not in the business. They're all on the call phase, they're all busy 16 hours a day, and I get to work with them in a safe space, again, on the stuff that really moves them 80-20 in the right direction. So essentially, it's a continuation of what I've always done for others, and now I do for entrepreneurs in Hong Kong, India, Miami, San Francisco, New York, Mexico, London, Lithuania, a couple of countries in Africa, LATAM. So literally over the globe, and having loads of fun doing that. And lately we've started incorporating more and more AI in the process. So yeah, that's what keeps me excited, I guess.
So speaking about working with different CEOs all over the world, what's the challenges that you see that those CEO face?
Yeah, I think the first is they're prisoners of their schedules. And they spend an enormous amount of hours every day jumping from meeting to meeting, and they're prisoners of their employees, their clients, their investors, and the problem with that, at the end of the day, actually, after having very busy, super productive days, they have a sense of dopamine, as in, wow, we've worked very hard, surely we've moved the needle. And 9 times out of 10, the answer is actually no, they haven't moved the needle. They've been busy in a fury of different things, but they haven't got clarity on what's going to help them scaling. And it's usually 3 to 5 things, not more. And so that's the first problem. The second problem is that they end up losing perspective. When I got recruited as a CEO by a venture capital firm, in 3 meetings, I had brought my external perspective to their business. I said, but hang on, that's actually not what you're doing. What you're doing is this because it speaks to that kind of clients. And they were blown away. They said, wow, we need to work with this guy. He's got an amazing perspective. So they hire me. A year later, my board, the very same guy, told me, but you're lacking perspective. You're not seeing the bigger picture. And I stood still and I thought, and I said, but yeah, they're absolutely right, which is completely crazy. They hired me because they thought I had great perspective. Now, a year later, saying, hey, you're lacking this, man. And the thought was, again, I was busy on the coal face for too long. And so these, I would say, would be two core things and core challenges that CEOs have. They need a space to work on the business. And that space usually is CEO coaching. And that's the reason why Harvard Business Review and other have published stats that CEOs and entrepreneurs who are coached are on average outperforming those who aren't. And I was thinking about that, and I think part of the secret is that you get to work with someone who's been in your shoes before, who's gone the hard miles and has got the scars, and it forces you to think on the business and to think on the stuff that really moves the needle. I met with a friend the other day, and he's a global exec. He's over 50 countries, a French guy in a large multinational. He's playing golf 3 times a week, and he says, I don't understand the guys who work 10 hours a day. I think he work half days, and he says it works like a charm. And he comes from the army. He was a senior ranking officer in the French army before, and he says, hey, the reason why I'm a leader is that I've got clarity of perspective. I don't get involved in the detail, and I delegate. I delegate with, and he's understood what leadership is about. And I think that's the pitfall of most entrepreneurs. Then there's the challenge of AI, but I'm sure we'll get to that soon.
Sorry about that. You say there are 3 to 5 things that move the needle. What are those 3 things or 5 things?
Yes, so they would typically vary from business to business, but one of them would be your USP, your unique selling proposition. And so you find that a lot of companies are lacking a strategic plan. And what they understand by, oh, yes, no, we actually do have a strategic plan, is actually next year they'll do more of the same with a twist. And they're not reinventing, they're not thinking through, and they're not, in terms of USP, they're not communicating with absolute clarity, why should I buy these services and these products? And normally it holds in a sentence. It's very simple. It's very clear. It's got to be something exciting. It's got to be something different. It's got to be quality at a great price, or in doing this or in doing that. But it's got to hold within one sentence. The second thing is the route to market. And the step-by-step for client acquisition. Clients don't usually go and buy immediately. They need to be accustomed with the kind of services you do. They need to have a quick taste and saying yes to an hour, and then yes to half a day, and then yes to a day, or they need to have a taste of. It's like you're going to a restaurant and you're having an amazing experience, and then you tell your best mate, hey, you've got to go to that new place, it's awesome. Now, if I say that to you, Richard, you'd probably say, yeah, sounds good. I think I'll go. But then life is busy and you never get to go. But if I'm saying to you, hey, Richard, do you have a few minutes right now? Yeah. Do you have a lunch break? Do you have 30 minutes? Yeah. It's around the corner. Let's go to that new place and have a taste. Let's have a taco. Let's have a bite. And you might say, okay, yeah, that's practical. It doesn't take too long. It's around the corner. I can say yes to that. And then from once you're there, once you've tasted the great food, the vibe, the thing, then you say you want a main, you want a dessert, and now you've got the full experience. And so, one, a USP, a unique selling proposition, and two, a clear route to market for client engagement. Most companies fail at just that. And then I would say they don't have a 5-year plan that makes a lot of sense. As in 5 years, we want to have opened that new market. We want to have made a lateral expansion in those services, and they don't have those scaling levers that can change the business rapidly. So here's a couple of things that the 3 to 5 things are always around. Another core thing is the key team, though. Because if you had the great strategy, a 5-year plan, a USP, a go-to-market step by step, but it's like running a Formula One race, but you don't have a proper engine. You have the perfect technical director, you have all the stats, you have all the expertise, but you don't have an engine, a proper engine in the car. It's not gonna work, obviously. And so an A team fit for purpose with exactly the right skill set for the stage of growth you're in, and with the clear understanding of each of their talents and expertise and experience, and how they work together in a practical way, in an efficient way. And A-team players are the guys with that natural energy, attitude, entrepreneurial, and so on. And they're one out of 20 people at best. And it's the art of recruiting. And if you don't have around you that core team that's gonna plug your gaps, because no entrepreneur is perfect, so we need people to complement us and so on. So that's another thing where entrepreneurs often fail at, unfortunately.
I'm sure you work with both like women and men CEOs. What are the differences in regards to that when you work with a woman or with a man?
I find that working with women, they're more in tune, more listening, they're more naturally open to getting feedback. There's no sense of pride usually or ego that stands in the way. But sometimes on the other side of the coin, they might at times lack a little bit of the assurance, and they might need a little bit more reinforcement. Now, that would be a generality, of course. Everyone is different, every personality is different. Um, but what I find, though, that's absolutely common between men and women coming for coaching is that there's like almost a natural selection. Because those who will come for coaching are those who are naturally open-minded. They are open to receiving feedback. They want to engage. They want to learn more. They want to grow personally and professionally and so on. And guys who know it all typically don't need coaching, and then the guys who are a little bit more ego driven and so on and so forth, they end up not coming for coaching, or you can sense them within the first 5 minutes that, hey, I don't think this is going to work, kind of thing. And it's great because you work with people who have that yearning for growth, for development, for putting themselves out there, for being vulnerable and authentic. And I think that's another reason why the CEOs who come for coaching are, on average, more successful than those who aren't, because it draws the right the right kind of people. It's only if you believe you don't know it all that you're gonna have a possibility to learn and develop yourself.
Do you have an example of a struggling company that you worked with, and when you went inside, you made a turnaround, and it was a huge success?
Yeah, a couple of them. One that comes to mind is an investment group, a family group, and you've got a powerful entrepreneur, personality larger than life, and the guy who needs to develop 20 more new ventures every day. So you're super entrepreneur. And when I found him in coaching, the problem and there was a flurry of activity, but that was just too much. There was not that 80-20 focus. And so over a handful of sessions, we've actually come to the root cause of, hey, you want to be busy, but you're all over the place. So let's redefine those investment criteria of yours. What is the stuff that's close to your core business? What is the stuff, therefore, that you can rely on your exec team and company infrastructure, the new projects that have, therefore, less risk and more chance to success? What is the stuff that you're uniquely great at, and not just because someone approached you with the right or with any opportunity? He was seizing any opportunity possible. And we've completely restrained that into defining his core scope, and where he would have 80% chance of success. And then we've established a hit list of the top projects on his current portfolio, the medium okay ones, and then the, apologies for the expression, but the stuff he shouldn't have been taken on and that have little chance of success. Then, over the space of 2 months, he's been able to disinvest from most of the bottom of the pile. We've started a hunting list of new projects where he could be successful and aligned to his core scope. And within the space of 4 months, you had an 80-20. All the loss-making projects were stopped. All the best performers, he had found ways to bolt on and to do more of that. And so that was a turnaround over 4 months. And yeah, another company was in the space of manpower in Eastern Europe and was continuously fine-tuning and fine-tuning and fine-tuning in their markets. But actually, the market rationale had changed. It's like selling CDs when everyone does online music, etc. And so that industry was falling from the cliff, but he couldn't see the bigger picture. And as a CEO, he continued to do what he was best at and his talent, which was continuous improvement and fine tuning. And we had to take the bull by the horn and say, hey, you might not be fit for purpose anymore. You were the founder and are the founder of a great company, and your skill set has brought it this far. But what brought you here is actually the root cause of your current demise, because your skill set must be now employed elsewhere, and you need a more transformational CEO that's going to now go towards more innovation, more different tips. And then following that, they've been able to make the right moves and be on the right path again. And so it's a lot around repositioning. And yeah, those are a couple of examples that come to mind.
In regards to leadership, what do leaders have to focus on?
They have to focus on more of the 5-year strategy, as in where do they see themselves in 5 years, not just plodding along with more of the same. And they have to also, so that's the 5-year window, and they have to look at the immediate next window. And I would say leverage AI. Leverage AI, what I mean by that is that AI is now extraordinarily powerful and more powerful by the day and it's essentially used for 3 levels. All of us are using it for meeting notes, for making an email more slick and so on and so forth. So the basic stuff. The second layer is to automate or for operational efficiency. And people are getting bit by bit into that because it's not too scary. It's not completely new because it's just a twist to our current business model. But the real benefit of AI is to work on the edge, on the frontier. We're doing workshops on the 5 non-obvious strategies that you could start implementing next week, Monday, within your current resources, and that's going to transform your bottom line or revenue and make it shoot in the right direction. And there's a way to engage with the AI for that. It's got just imagine for a second having 1,000 consultants in your meeting room, in your office as an entrepreneur. And it's just about the power and the understanding to ask the right questions and to the art of dancing with AI, of the right interaction. But the CEOs who are doing that, and they're extremely few, and we're teaching more and more of them to use it. If you have practical, tactical strategies to lift the bottom lines and revenue on a frequent basis and unbottleneck your business by leveraging at a fraction of the cost an army of consultants, as in the computing power of AI, and to think on itself, that is just mind-blowing. And I would strongly recommend any entrepreneur to start using AI for the stuff that matters. That's one strong suggestion I would do.
Have you seen, because everybody's using AI in a different way, but have you seen CEOs that are using AI for business growth?
Frankly, no. A lot of CEOs are into the mundane tasks. Step 2, they are they are delegating to their CTO and teams, and that's a major problem because 19 out of 20 CTOs are also in not the right future thinking mindset. And so they will go about automation projects and efficiency projects. And then the CEO will think, okay, no, that's going in the right direction. We're doing something about AI. But it doesn't mean that someone isn't coming for your lunch and disrupting your industry or your space as you speak. And so I haven't seen CEOs on the strategic front of AI as yet. And I think that's a major problem because inevitably some of them will start doing it and then it's going to accelerate even more because AI has got the potential of disruption, but it takes a disruptor to use it, leverage it, and go and that's when someone will have your lunch. And so the question is, do you want to be the guy having someone else's lunch, or do you want your lunch to be eaten? And so that's the key for CEOs, I think. And it's not very difficult to learn and to use AI strategically. So we do typically that with excos over 5 sessions where they learn to work together as a team and to leverage the best of AI. Over 5 sessions, it's done. It's like learning to drive a car. It's not a complex skill. It's fairly straightforward. It's just that the first time we climb into a car, it sounds quite overpowering. We're not sure where to start and managing the pedals and the things and the steering wheel indicators, the gearbox, but the 100th time we climb in a car, we just drive. We don't even think about it. So same with AI. There's no fear to be had. There's no this. It's a practical tool. It's an extraordinary tool.
In 2 minutes, if when it comes to scaling internationally, what would you say about that?
Speed. So time is your most critical ratio. And so if time is your most critical ratio, you have to look at rapidity of scaling, scale of the market. So people think next door. So if I'm in that state in the US, then I can do the next few states. So I can do but what about the neighboring countries and continent? What are the large markets that are going to help you get there? What are the scaling levers? If you're not credible into a new space, into a new country, someone is. Who's got access to 80% of the large brands you want to target there? They have them as the portfolio. And what about using them as a scaling lever, as a partner by a revenue share or some sort? It's all about acceleration because the time that you would go and set up shop into another market, it's going to take you 2 or 3 years for building a local team, a local credibility, a local brand that's now recognized and so on. So use someone else's credibility. That's a time hack. Use a large market. Use 3 to 5 scaling levers. It's all about return on time, actually. It's not anymore about IP or specific products. Anyone can copy whatever you do reasonably rapidly. It's about scaling fast. And for that, it's all about time as your single most important ratio.
Where can people learn more about you and follow you?
So you would find me on Disruptive Leap, like a disruption and a leap of faith. So disruptiveleap.com. And entrepreneurs who want to engage can either WhatsApp a message or book a chat, and yeah, that's the easiest.